Imagine going from unloading pallets in a warehouse to unloading hits on NHL ice. And not just any hits, but the kind that make highlight reels and send crowds into a frenzy. That's the reality for Arber Xhekaj, one of the most unlikely success stories in modern hockey. His journey wasn't the clean, polished climb you see from most pros. No draft day celebrations, no hype videos, no golden path through elite junior programs. Instead, it's a gritty, zigzagging, against the odds climb from anonymity to becoming the Montreal Canadiens enforcer and a cult hero in Quebec. And the road to get here. It's so absurd that if you didn't know it was true, you'd think it was a movie script that went too far. Born January 30th, 2001 in Hamilton, Ontario, Arber Xhekaj grew up in a modest but close-knit household. His father, Jack, arrived from war-torn Kosovo, bringing with him an unshakable work ethic and the kind of toughness you can't teach. His mother, Simona, came from the Czech Republic, carrying her own deep sense of discipline and resilience. Neither parent had a hockey background. No hockey camps in the Czech mountains, no family photos with shiny junior league trophies. Hockey wasn't even on the radar in their worlds. But Canada has a way of changing that. For Arber and his younger brother Florian, the frozen rinks of Ontario quickly became second homes. The early days weren't filled with stardom. Arber wasn't the kind of kid scouts whispered about in arenas. He didn't light up scoreboards or dominate youth tournaments. He was just a hard-nosed defenseman in minor hockey, often overlooked in favor of flashier players. The first major gut punch came in 2017 when he went completely undrafted in the OHL draft. For most teenagers, that's the moment the dream dies. But for Arber, it was the moment it hardened. That rejection could have been the end. Instead, he joined the St. Catharines Falcons in the GOJHL, Ontario's Junior B League. The rinks were smaller, the crowds thinner, but it was still hockey. And it was here that Arber began to show flashes of the style that would define him. Punishing hits, fearless battles in the corners, and a refusal to back down from anyone. By 2018, he'd caught just enough attention to earn an invite to the Kitchener Rangers training camp as a walk-on. No promises, no guarantees, just a shot. And he took it. Arber made the roster and game by game carved out his spot. His first full OHL season saw him rack up 88 penalty minutes in 51 games, cementing his rep as someone you didn't want to cross. Then, just as his momentum was building, COVID-19 shut everything down. The entire 2020-21 Ontario Hockey League season was canceled. No games, no ice time, no way to prove himself. To pay the bills, he took a job at Costco in Hamilton. This wasn't just a part-time gig. It was long hours hauling pallets, unloading trucks, restocking shelves. And every shift was a reminder that the NHL dream was hanging by a thread. Managers warned him to come to reality and choose between hockey and work. Arber's answer was simple. He was chasing the dream, even if it meant being late for a shift because he was squeezing in extra ice time. That's the part of the story most people can't wrap their heads around. That just months before signing an NHL contract, Arber was stocking shelves in the back room of a Costco, wondering if his hockey career had already ended. When junior hockey finally returned, Arber came back like a man possessed. Midway through the 2021-22 season, the Kitchener Rangers traded him to the Hamilton Bulldogs, his hometown team. Suddenly, he was playing in front of family and friends every night, and he made it count. His physicality became a weapon for Hamilton. He was an anchor on the blue line during their playoff run, a player who not only shut down opposing forwards, but also kept them looking over their shoulders. That spring, he helped lead the Bulldogs to an Ontario Hockey League championship and a berth in the Memorial Cup. Though the Bulldogs fell short in the final, Arber's performance earned him a spot on the Memorial Cup All-Star team, a huge accomplishment for someone who had been ignored by every NHL team just months earlier. And yet, even with this success, the NHL draft passed him over again. It was a head-scratcher to anyone watching him play. For Arber, it was fuel, the kind of fuel that doesn't burn out quickly. The breakthrough came in the summer of 2021 when the Montreal Canadiens invited him to their rookie camp. He showed up without pedigree or hype, but with a chip on his shoulder and a style of play coaches couldn't ignore. By October 4th, 2021, Arber had signed a 3-year entry-level deal with the Canadiens. Just months earlier, he had been lifting pallets at Costco. Now he was wearing the iconic Habs sweater. Fast forward to October 12th, 2022, opening night of the NHL season. Injuries on Montreal's defense gave Arber his shot, and he seized it. That night, he became the first player in NHL history with a surname starting with X. Within days, he had his first point, his first fight, a decisive win over veteran Zach Kassian, and his first goal, a sneaky wrister that slipped past Jake Oettinger. In a single week, he transformed from an unknown rookie to a cult figure in Montreal. Fans and teammates dubbed him Wi-Fi because, well, good luck spelling his last name without looking it up. But the NHL isn't a straight climb. In February 2023, Arber's rookie season ended with a shoulder injury from a fight, requiring surgery. The setback was crushing, especially after such a promising start. He rehabbed hard and returned for the 2023-24 season, only to be sidelined again in November with another upper body injury. When he was finally cleared, the Canadiens sent him down to the Laval Rocket in the AHL to rebuild his game and get ice time. Instead of sulking, Arber used the stint to rediscover his rhythm, putting up 11 points in 17 games and proving he could adapt. His return to the Habs was met with immediate impact, bringing back the edge the team had been missing. The 2024-25 season became a proving ground. Arber played 70 games, a career high, and led the team in penalty minutes with 118. He also hit personal bests in hits, 180, and blocked shots, 63. The message was clear. When he's in the lineup, the Canadiens play with more bite. Mid-season, he reached a milestone, his 100th NHL game on October 17th, 2024. And just to keep things interesting, he made headlines during the playoffs when the league fined him $3,385.42 for unsportsmanlike conduct before a game against Washington. Both teams were fined $25,000 for the altercation, but for Canadiens fans, it was just another example of the sheriff doing what he does best, setting the tone. That July, the Canadiens rewarded him with a 2-year, $2.6 million contract extension. For a player who'd once been ignored by scouts, it was a resounding validation. Now, heading into the 2025-26 season, Arber stands at a genuine crossroads. On one side, he's carved out a reputation as one of the toughest players in the league, the guy who can turn the tide of a game with a single hit or a timely fight. On the other, the Canadiens' defensive core is deeper than it's been in years. Young, hungry prospects are knocking on the door, and the margin for error has never been slimmer. Montreal's coaching staff loves his edge, but they've also been vocal about the need for consistency. Every shift is a chance to prove he can be more than just an enforcer, that he can be a reliable, disciplined defender who won't put his team in tough situations with untimely penalties. The physical side of his game is unquestionable. Few players can match his intimidation factor, and opponents know they'll pay a price if they take liberties with a Canadiens forward. But in today's NHL, toughness alone isn't enough to guarantee a long-term roster spot. If Arber wants to stay in Montreal for years to come, he'll need to show he can adjust to the speed and skill of the modern game without losing the identity that got him here. That means smarter defensive reads, better puck movement, and cutting down on those costly turnovers that led to his brief benching late last season. It also means staying healthy, something that's been a challenge in his young career. For a player who's already battled through major injuries and come back stronger, it's a familiar test, but one with even higher stakes now. The truth is, there's a version of Arber who becomes a cornerstone of the Canadiens' blue line, the player you can't imagine the team without. There's also a version where he gets pushed out by younger talent and has to fight his way back into the NHL the hard way all over again. Which one we see might depend entirely on what he does in the next 82 games. And given his history, it's hard not to believe he'll embrace that challenge with the same stubborn, unshakable determination that's fueled him from the start. From an undrafted teenager hauling pallets at Costco to an NHL defenseman squaring off against some of the toughest players in the league, Arber's story is a rare kind of sports narrative, the kind that feels impossible until you realize it happened right in front of us. It's proof that the path to success isn't always straight. Sometimes it's a winding road littered with setbacks, detours, and moments when giving up would have been the easier option. What makes his journey so compelling isn't just the grit or the big hits, it's the persistence, the unshakable belief that even when the hockey world overlooked him, his story wasn't finished. And now, with nearly 170 NHL games under his belt, a multi-year deal in his pocket, and a fan base that's embraced him as the sheriff, Xhekaj finds himself staring down the next chapter. It's a chapter that could see him transform from an energy guy and enforcer into a complete, well-rounded defenseman, one that not only protects his teammates, but locks down the defensive zone against the league's best. If he can pull it off, we won't just remember him as the player who fought his way into the NHL, We'll remember him as the guy who stayed there on his own terms. And maybe that's why his story resonates so deeply, because whether you're chasing a dream in hockey, business, or any other part of life, we all face those moments where the odds seem impossible. Arber's career reminds us that those moments aren't the end, they're the test. So here's the question: will the next few years see him cemented as a core piece of the Canadiens' future? Or will he once again have to defy the odds and prove everyone wrong? Whatever happens, one thing's for sure: this isn't the last time we'll be talking about Arber. Now it's your turn. What's the wildest career climb you've ever seen in sports? Drop it in the comments, and if you want more stories like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because just like Xhekaj's journey, you never know when the next chapter will surprise you.